Well, we're going to have some fun here and do something that really we only do on this show from time to time. Well, actually more than time to time. We do it often. And we'll get to the other stuff. The other stuff has probably been chewed over pretty good by other hosts. I'm just guessing. And I've gone through the news pretty thoroughly last many hours, and nothing jumps at me. There are things we can discuss, but when it's Friday, Friday's an important day to me. You're getting ready for the weekend, and we keep our foot on the gas pedal. And many of you are in your cars and at your dinner table. And so I want to draw your attention to some basic information. We've been listening a lot about people who claim that they're MAGA or that conservatism is old, it's no good, and on and on and on. And I thought we should steady ourselves. I thought we should go back to the North Star. Because our principles, yours, mine, that we've been talking about for decades, that we believe in, that are the basis for our country, they're not old, they're not new, they just are what they are. That is, they're right. And so when we have people who sound like Marxists on the neo-fascist right, who go on about, well, yeah, forget about that stuff, we've got the new ideas, just remember who that's coming from. Very confused and often stupid people. And of course, we're looking straight at Marxism-Islamism, which is incompatible with Americanism. So I want to remind you, to put it succinctly, conservatism is a way of understanding life, society, and governance. The founders were heavily influenced by certain philosophers. One of them was a contemporary, Adam Smith, spontaneous order, Charles Montesquieu, separation of powers, especially John Locke, natural rights. They were also influenced by their faiths, personal experiences, and knowledge of history, including the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. Edmund Burke, who was both a British statesman, born in Ireland, and a thinker, is often said to be the father of modern conservatism. He was an early defender of the American Revolution and advocate of representative government. He wrote of the interconnection of liberty, free markets, religion, tradition, and authority. The conservative, like the founders, is informed by all these great thinkers and many more. The Declaration of Independence represents the most prominent official consensus position of the founders, their rationale for declaring independence from England. The founders believed, and the conservative agrees, in the dignity of the individual, that we as human beings have a right to live freely, and pursue that which motivates us, not because man or some government says so, but because these are God-given natural rights. Like the founders, the conservative also recognizes in society a harmony of interests, as Adam Smith put it, and rules of cooperation that have developed through generations of human experience and collective reasoning that promote the betterment of the individual and society. This is characterized as ordered liberty, the social contract, or the civil society. Now, what are the conditions of this civil society? In the civil society, the individual is recognized and accepted as more than an abstract statistic or faceless member of some group. Rather, he is a unique spiritual being with a soul and a conscience. He's free to discover his own potential and pursue his own legitimate interests, tempered, however, by a moral order that has its foundation in faith and guides his life and all human life through the prudent exercise of judgment. As such, the individual in the society strives, albeit imperfectly, to be virtuous. That is, restrained, ethical, and honorable. He rejects the relativism that blurs the lines between good and bad, right and wrong, just and unjust, and means and ends. In the civil society, the individual has a duty to respect the unalienable rights of others and the values, customs, and traditions tried and tested over time and passed from one generation to the next that established society's cultural identity. He's responsible for attending to his own well-being and that of his family. And he has a duty as a citizen to contribute voluntarily to the welfare of his community through good works. In the civil society, private property and liberty are inseparable. The individual's right to live freely and safely and pursue happiness includes the right to acquire and possess property, which represents the fruits of his own intellectual and physical labor. As the individual's time on earth is finite, so too is his labor. The illegitimate denial or diminution of his private property enslaves him to another and denies him his liberty. In the civil society, a rule of law, which is just, known, and predictable, and applied equally, albeit imperfectly, provides the governing framework for and restraints on the polity, thereby nurturing the civil society and serving as a check against arbitrary use and hence abuse of power. For the conservative, the civil society has the highest purpose, its preservation and improvement. The modern liberal believes in the supremacy of the state, thereby rejecting the principles of the Declaration and the order of the civil society in whole or part. For the modern liberal, the individual's imperfection and personal pursuits impede the objective of a utopian state. In this, modern liberalism promotes what French historian Alexis de Tocqueville described as a soft tyranny, which becomes increasingly more oppressive, potentially leading to a hard tyranny, some form of totalitarianism. As the word liberal is, in its classical meaning, the opposite of authoritarian, it's more accurate, therefore, to characterize the modern liberal as a statist. We're coming upon the 250th birthday of the United States, and it has me thinking, what will America look like 250 years from now? My friends at the Heritage Foundation want to know what you think. What policies should America prioritize? What principles should carry us into the decades ahead? As America enters a new golden age, Heritage recognizes that this is the time to take stock and to be intentional about how we shape the future of America. And they can't do it without your input. So please go to heritage.org/LEVIN and let them know what you think is important. Without patriots like you stepping up and speaking up for what you believe in, America as we know it can't survive for another 250 years. Please go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/LEVIN. Take the survey on America's future. This survey takes less than 10 minutes to complete, but it is critical for making sure that the America we pass on to future generations is an America we're proud of. Go to heritage.org/Levin today. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. The founders understood that the greatest threat to liberty is an all-powerful central government, with a few dictate to the many. They also knew that the rule of the mob would lead to anarchy and, in the end, despotism. During the Revolutionary War, the states more or less followed the Articles of Confederation, in which most governing authority remained with the states. After the war, the founders labored to establish a new nation. The defects with the Articles became increasingly apparent. The central government did not have the ability to fund itself. Moreover, states were issuing their own currency, conducting their own foreign policy, and raising their own armies. Trade disputes among the states and with other countries were hampering commerce and threatening national prosperity. Eventually, the Articles were replaced with the Constitution, which granted the federal government enough authority to cultivate, promote, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, quote unquote, but not enough authority to destroy it all. For much of American history, the balance between government authority and individual liberty was understood and accepted. Federal power was confined to that which was specifically enumerated in the Constitution and no more. And that power was further limited, for it was dispersed among 3 federal branches. Beyond that, the power remained with the states and ultimately the people. The framers recognized the Constitution may require adjustments from time to time. Therefore, they provided two mechanisms, two methods for proposing amendments, only one of which has been used in adopting all current amendments. Requires a supermajority of two-thirds of the members of both houses of Congress to propose an amendment to the states for ratification, and three-fourths of the states to successfully ratify the proposed amendment. In all our history, the Constitution has been amended only 27 times, the first 10 of which, the Bill of Rights, were adopted shortly after the Constitution was ratified. Clearly, the framers did not intend the Constitution to be easily altered. It was to be a lasting contract that could be modified only by the considered judgment of a significant representation of the body politic. And it goes on. The statist has an insatiable appetite for control. His sights are set on his next meal even before he's fully digested his last. He's constantly agitating for government action. And in furtherance of that purpose, the statist speaks in the tongue of the demagogue, concocting one pretext and grievance after another to manipulate public perceptions and build popular momentum for the divestiture of liberty and property from its rightful possessors, the individual. The industrious, earnest, and successful are demonized as perpetrators of various offenses against the public good, which justifies governmental intervention on behalf of an endless parade of so-called victims. In this way, the perpetrator and the victim are subordinated to the government's authority, the former by outright theft, the latter by a dependent existence. In truth, both are made victims by the real perpetrators, the statist. The statist veils his pursuits in moral indignation, intoning in high dudgeon the injustices and inequities of liberty and life itself, for which only he can provide justice and bring a righteous resolution. And when the resolution proves elusive, as it undoubtedly does, whether the Marxist promise of the workers' paradise or the great society's war on poverty, the statist demands ever more authority to wring out the imperfections of mankind's existence. Unconstrained by constitutional prohibitions, what is left to limit the statist's ambitions but his own moral compass, which has already led him astray? He's never circumspect about his shortcomings. Failure is not the product of his beliefs, but merely want of power and resources. Thus are born endless rationalizations for seizing ever more governmental authority. And it goes on. Pretty good stuff, wouldn't you say, Mr. Producer? You're right. It's from the first chapter of Liberty and Tyranny. I think there are people out there, so-called influencers and podcasters, who claim to be of the right, who are really neo-fascist in many respects, who reject everything I just read to you in a book that was written 16 years ago. It was the best-selling conservative book in modern history, Liberty and Tyranny. Over 1.5 million copies. It was the book that was used at and by the Tea Party movement, which became MAGA, Make America Great Again movement, under our great President Donald Trump. People who spread hate and bigotry, anti-Semitism, trash Christians who believe in the Holy Land, who push hard on racism and bigotry and misogyny. They're not conservatives. They're not constitutionalists. They're thugs. They are thugs, every bit as the Marxists and the Islamists. They are thugs. I don't care if I'm the last beacon of light. I don't care. I will continue to speak out against these people. They're surrogates, and I will do it on every platform I have. And I want to give you the good news. The enormous outpouring of support for this program, for my other platforms, for me taking these people on, encouraging other people to do the same, other people beginning to do the same, is a great sign that we who believe in Americanism, that we who believe in our founding and our Constitution, that we who embrace these principles, we're not going anywhere. In fact, we're rallying, we're speaking out, even when politicians who claim to represent us do not, with a relative handful who do. Most of them sit silently, cowering, quislings. Not me and not you.